I am here with Susan Edwards, well known as Sue, in Nairobi, Kenya, and she's the director at the Institute for Sustainable Development in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, but they do a lot of work in the whole country. And Madam Sue, tell us, what do you do at the Institute for Sustainable Development in Ethiopia regarding organic agriculture?
It's 20 years since we started. When we started, we were not interested in organic for organic, like certified.
Yeah.
We wanted to see if the application of ecological principles could help smallholder farmers restore soil fertility, and restore natural resources, and so that they could use their own indigenous knowledge. And particularly in Ethiopia, we have a very rich genetic resource in agriculture, agricultural biodiversity, and this was being challenged by climate change, population expansion. So farmers were having to farm on smaller and smaller areas of land, and also on it's a mountainous country, so erosion was a huge problem.
Yeah.
And then recurring droughts, and then after a drought you get rainstorms, so the whole business. And we've wondered if it was possible for farmers to recapture their own governance structures and come to common agreements, yeah, like bylaws, on how to manage their immediate environments, like a microcatchment.
So you have a commitment at the Institute to improving food production systems using indigenous knowledge, indigenous practices, and indigenous innovations to have a holistic food production systems in Ethiopia, right?
Correct. In the past, when the population was much smaller, there were systems to restore soil fertility, and also in the historical past, communities had governance systems to protect critical areas of woodland, forest, hillsides, etc. But as I said, with the rapid expansion or increase in the numbers, and more than 80%, 85% of the population is still living in rural areas, the land available for this kind of complex management systems got less and less, and the priority is food for the household. So so we needed to see what other things, apart of using the indigenous knowledge, using their traditional varieties, but with some other inputs which in the past they didn't need. One of these was, in the past, fertility was restored by resting land,
yeah,
fallowing land,
yeah,
and also grazing, so that animals drop their dung and urine on these resting fields.
Yeah.
But that has virtually disappeared in many areas, and Ethiopian farmers, unlike in India and in China, particularly, did not have a systematic way of restoring fertility through making compost. They knew the value of manure,
yeah,
farmyard manure, etc. But farmyard manure carries a lot of weed seeds with it. But if you can combine animal dung with other organic residues from the farm and also from the household compound, etc., and you do it in a systematic way, you can actually produce a compost which takes back to the soil organic matter in the form of humus, which is a glue for the soil,
yeah,
but also many of the nutrients, except those that are taken out in a food crop. Most of the other nutrients will get returned to the soil.
So we are seeing an increase in the global population, and maybe by 2050, estimates show that we shall have grown to 10 billion people. So the need for more food is increasingly becoming, or is going to become, a very huge global challenge. And with all this contemporary way of production that doesn't consider the soil fertility management, do you think that sustainable farming systems and ecological organic agriculture is the way to go to help us, or to help the whole world be able to feed its enormous population by that time?
Yeah, because actually the industrial system of agriculture, the one that uses a lot of high external inputs, and particularly when this is combined with irrigation, is putting more land out of production.
Exactly.
Yeah, by what's through salinization or alkalinity or erosion, but and the amount of land going out of production every year is very frightening. That's one. The second one is agricultural land is no longer being used only to produce food crops. We've always produced sugarcane, but that's both a food and a forage. Cotton, because we make our clothing with cotton.
Yeah.
But things like biofuels, and even they're talking about have you heard of farmer crops? Crops which are engineered to produce pharmaceutical products.
Yeah.
And these are given a high priority. They're probably put in on priority land, and this is taking more land away from basic food production.
Yeah.
So, in fact, the industrial system and the fact that most of the industrial world, or the developed world, there are more people living in urban areas who have lost an understanding of the connection between food production and people, and how we should manage our ecosystems. And it's very difficult for them to really understand how we need to restore or bring back and improve. It doesn't mean we go backwards, because there is modern science which can tell us improved ways, like in making compost. Traditionally you would just rely on the locally available microorganisms to do the decomposition for you. But now you can actually, in Japan and some other countries, they're producing what they call improved, or EM, and these are like you buy a spice or a salt or something, and of course microorganisms are very small. You can add these to compost, and therefore the whole compost making process can be quicker, and so you can actually cycle back into something that then can go back into the soil and be used for food production.
So Madame Sue, finally, the Pope has come up to say that our planet is increasingly becoming a pile of fill in his recent statement on climate change and sustainability.
Yeah,
and
I read it.
He's adding his voice on so many other voices of global leaders and religious leaders and Dalai Lama and every other important global leader. So do you think that if we don't do what we're supposed to do right, this little blue planet of ours is going to burst and will not be able to accommodate us anymore?
Well, I think this is already happening, because this is what is driving the biggest migration process. It's not just people leaving war-challenged, war-torn areas of Africa, degraded areas of Africa, but look what's happening in between Myanmar, Thailand, Indonesia. There are thousands of people trying to move to find a better life, because governments and also the external aid agencies, which provide a lot of the aid, as it's called, to them, are only focusing on a very simplistic way of trying to solve these problems. They're looking only at how do you solve the problems, and at the same time the capitalist paradigm is saying you have to make money out of the process.
Yeah.
So we're getting more, the third world or the developing world is getting more and more exploited.
Yeah.
And in the process, our natural resources are becoming more and more deteriorated. The young people who we want to keep and become our producers, our engineers, our people to develop our countries don't have an opportunity. And so this horrific migration that's taking place now.
Yeah.
And for me, instead of putting the money into arms and war and defense mechanisms and all this dialogue on terrorism, if we just took even 10% of that huge budget and we channeled it into effective development programs which brought existing farmers a fair reward for what they want to do, so they could do farming in a sustainable and environmentally, ecologically balanced way, and also be paid a fair price for their product. Nobody wants to pay a good price for food.
Yeah.
They always want to pay for a holiday, or for a car. They're looking to put their money in services.
Things which are generally superficial. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so that's my take.
Thank you so much, Madam Sue. And we are here at the Kivi Milman Hotel in Nairobi on the sidelines of the Ecological Organic Agriculture Initiative workshop on M&E here in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you so much.